so we'll just jump right in then. So in an FBI report found the University of Michigan to have the second highest number of reported hate crimes of 110 public and private universities surveyed in 2017. The report claimed that there were about 15 hate crimes reported at the Ann Arbor campus, while the Dearborn and MSU campuses only reported one hate crime. And while the increase in reporting hate crimes may come from students' familiarity and willingness to disclose them to the university, some students are still frustrated with the university's inadequate responses to bias incidents on campus. So what do you think the FBI report's findings say about our university's campus climate? And additionally, do you see the high amount of reported hate crimes as a success on the university's part, or as a sign that the university needs to work harder to prevent these incidents?
I think it's very hard to know, but I share the frustration and really the anger that members of our community have to be subject to hate of any kind, and particularly hate of the type we're talking about here, hate crime based on identity. We're a very large, complicated organization with a lot of people coming and going, a lot of geography to cover, a lot of public buildings, and when hate is as simple as someone rolling down a car window and shouting something terrible at one of your fellow students or a faculty member, for example, it's a big challenge, diminishing it. I think as we work to try to diminish it, I think an important thing is that we support our entire community. So when someone is subject to this terrible treatment, there are resources they can call upon and people to help. I think we should continue to aggressively investigate all episodes that are brought to attention, recognizing that sometimes it's very hard to track down a perpetrator given, as I said, the scale and the openness of the campus. Probably some of it is a reporting incident, and remember, the number 15 is a big number, but there's 45,000 students on campus, 30,000 employees, so there shouldn't be any episodes, and 15 should be zero, and we have to work in that direction. But it's hard. I don't want to dismiss it as enhanced reporting. I want to look at it for what it is and try to mitigate it. One of the things I'd like to pay elevated attention to in the context of our DEI work is acts of religious bigotry and bias. And we had some of that come to the fore in discussions around Israel-Palestine politics. And I think we have to be wary of increases in anti-Semitism, increases in anti-Muslim bigotry. And I think we're going to feature education and programs around that more prominently in the year ahead.
All right, so along with the information from the FBI report on hate crimes on university campuses, data from the University of Michigan Police Department showed from 2015 to 2017, the Black community reported the highest number of hate crimes, followed by the Muslim, LGBTQ+, and Jewish communities. So given that different marginalized communities on campus may have varying comfort levels with reporting hate crimes, how do you plan to work with individual communities who are often targeted to prevent bias incidents?
Yeah, that's a great and important question. So me personally, but more importantly, Student Affairs is continuously engaging with groups, and new groups come forward every day. I have every year, and we've already done several this academic year, not calendar year, which is so new, meetings at my home over either breakfast or pizza for dinner to discuss these issues with leaders and members of all different kinds of groups. And various arms of Student Affairs have very regular interactions with student leaders representing each of the identity groups you mentioned. But those are just a handful, and there are more. We're all individuals that carry with us many identities. And unfortunately, at different moments, I think we're all subject to unfair or unequitable treatment. And I think we have to prioritize eliminating this prejudicial treatment wherever we see it.
Absolutely.
All right. In a working paper published by the National Bureau of Economic Research in December 2018, researchers discussed the impact of the Hale Scholarship on the applications and attendance of students from low socioeconomic status backgrounds. The study indicated personalized intervention, especially through attractive letter packaging and contact through hail, positively impacted students' choice of more selective elite schools. Given the study has only drawn conclusions from the first 2 years of the program, is it too soon to deem the scholarship a success in regards to substantially decreasing the income gap? Why? Are there any plans to implement the paper's findings about increased personalized early intervention for all types of scholarships the university offers? Or for all types of scholarships the university offers?
Yeah. So let me make an analogy. I'm a medical doctor. When you do a clinical trial, you do a double-blind clinical trial trying to make sure that the new treatment's better than the old treatment and that you're not introducing bias into the experiment. But all along the way of doing a trial, you're always having a panel check the results. Because it turns out if the results are so compelling that one treatment is better than another, it's actually unethical to continue the study because the people that are in the control group are not getting the full advantage of what you've learned. So in the case of this Hale Scholarship, which is a study led by Professor Donarski from Public Policy and Education and Economics, the results were so incredibly striking that although the professor continues her study, and this NBER publication is the first public report of the data, we've begun implementing it already because it was so striking, her results. And it's such a major goal of our university is to make sure that a Michigan education remains accessible and affordable, and we attract talented people from all different parts of the economy, that we've already implemented it, and it's already showing success. So we call it something different at the campus level. We call it the Go Blue Guarantee. And one of the main take-homes from the Hale Scholars Program is in the setting of this high-touch interaction with potential students. Instead of saying to them, if you say we give generous need-based financial aid and we'll meet your full calculated need, if you say to them, if you come from a family at or below a family income of $65,000, you don't pay any tuition, it's free. It turns out that's really powerful. And in the Hale study, it increased the frequency of applicants 2.5-fold compared to a control group. And that's why we've implemented it in effect for the entire in-state admissions process. So we've told existing students and then all of our applicants that if you get accepted to the university and if you come from most families with incomes below $65,000, that you won't pay tuition, and we'll calculate if you need even more need than that. And it was important to tell people that come from families who make more than that we do give generous financial aid based on your family circumstances. And in many instances, we give at least the equivalent of a full tuition scholarship to folks from families that make even more money than that. So the Hale Scholarship Program really completely revolutionized the way we reach out to people in different parts of the Michigan economy. The early data, it's only been one admission cycle, but this year's freshman class has increased its fraction of first-generation students, has increased its representation of students from the lower socioeconomic quadrants of or quintiles of the economy, and it's exceeded our expectations, and we're going to stick with it. And not only that, the study got national attention. So it's the buzz of the community of people around the country that are struggling with the problem of enticing talented kids from lower socioeconomic backgrounds to be brave enough to apply to great universities. Mm-hmm. So I'm as proud of this as anything we've done.
Thank you.
And if I can ask a quick follow-up to that, I think the aspect of the kind of like increased personalized intervention is something that we found very interesting. Do you plan on extending that to other types of scholarships U of M offers as well?
Well, we continuously learn what resonates as we do outreach around the state. So the goal is to have people from all around the state and all around the country think of us as an outstanding opportunity for their college education. And financial aid is part of it. We've tended to focus a lot of our resources on need-based aid. So all the students that come here are really smart, and it's very difficult to distinguish between you, and you're a little bit smarter, but you're, an English major and you're a neuroscientist. Maybe you should, we tend to rely largely on financial need and then academic excellence. There are scholarships targeted to specific subpopulations of people. Some are targeted on academics, others are targeted on where you come from. So we have a scholarship program that for people that come from one of the counties up north because we have a donor that wants to support people from their county. So we do things like that, and we try to use the lessons we learn from something like HAIL to improve the effectiveness of our outreach to students. And it must be working. The number of applications we get is going up by leaps and bounds every year. This last year we got over 65,000 applications. The year before we were in the high 50s. 2 years earlier we were in the 40s. It's just thousands. It's just so we're quite good at attracting the attention of talented people to apply here.
Great.
Good.
And so now kind of switching gears over to the Title IX policy revisions. So at the final University of Michigan Senate Assembly of 2018, you discussed the university's revisions to the policies regarding student sexual misconduct, as well as a ban on faculty-student relationships. And some of the revisions involved establishing two different pathways to settle cases, either through an adaptable resolution or through an investigative resolution, the involvement of a case member from the Office for Student Conflict Resolution during each of those investigations, as well as the option for students to cross-question one another. What about the new policies will allow the university to deal with sexual misconduct more effectively?
Yes, so one of the biggest challenges we've had for years now, not just a new challenge, is getting people to report. Our survey data showed that the frequency of reporting is far less than the frequency of people experiencing misconduct. Mm-hmm. And in order to help folks, we do many things. We do a lot of education work trying to diminish the frequency of the problems. But we want people who've been subject to sexual misconduct to step forward and ask for help, essentially. What's motivated our most recent change to generate this new interim policy on student sexual misconduct is a court case. So we lost a court case that was a very important case. We appealed it and we lost again. And the court case essentially says we have to offer a student who's accused of misconduct the opportunity to question their accuser in some kind of hearing. Now, we're very concerned, as many students are very concerned, that putting someone who's been subject to misconduct through an in-person hearing, sitting next to their accuser, would be enormously uncomfortable, re-traumatizing, and we fear it will diminish reporting. And if people don't report, we can't help them. So we've tried to develop, or we have developed, a new interim policy, and we're calling it interim because we need to see if we can make it better. Because of the court case, we had to do something different than what we were doing. It wasn't a choice of ours to continue. We weren't allowed to continue. The new aspects of this policy, in addition to a setting where this direct questioning can happen, mediated by a hearing officer, a highly trained hearing officer. This providing students with the option of what's called adaptable resolution. That's essentially where the two parties, if they're willing, can talk to someone from an office in student life who will kind of arbitrate the problem and get the two parties to agree to a resolution that doesn't involve having to go through this hearing and this confronting of one another. So it's kind of like mediation as opposed to a hearing and an adjudication. And we decided to try that. Some schools already do this. We had offered that option in other circumstances, not involving sexual misconduct, other student misconduct issues. And the hope is by providing the second pathway, some students who did not want to come forward and expose themselves to a hearing might come forward and say, yeah, I'd like to consider this other way of getting justice here, a sort of more negotiated way towards justice. So by offering that as an option, hopefully we'll get more students to step forward and ask for help. This is also happening in the setting of the U.S. Department of Education, having put out a proposed change in their regulations around how schools who receive federal support must adjudicate misconduct. And that's out for public comment. The comment period extends for another month or so. Many people have commented from this community. Many people have commented. As an aside, I've heard that there have been more comments on this set of proposed regulations than anything in the history of the education department. So everyone knows it, everyone's putting in their 2 cents. We don't know how that's going to turn out. And once again, those regs, once they're approved, will have the force of law. So we'll have to adjust maybe our policies in the setting of these new government regulations. And then also as we begin, the policy went live on the 9th when the semester started. So as we begin to gain experiments and get feedback from students, we make further modifications to stay within the confines of the law, but to make it as easy and untraumatizing as possible for someone to come forward and ask for help.
Yeah, great. And along with that, I know how will the addition of more avenues for handling sexual misconduct, as well as the inclusion of a case member from Oscar, impact the amount of time that it takes to
It's
handle
actually a case manager.
Case manager.
And the idea behind a case manager is one of the criticisms we've heard quite a bit of our existing processes is sometimes it's hard for a student that's involved either as a complainant or a respondent to actually figure out what's going on. The procedure takes a while, in the interview mechanism. By the time you've interviewed people and gotten their written statements and send them back to edit and revise, just time goes by, and students are wondering what the heck is happening with my complaint, or someone that's been a witness is wondering what's going on, or somebody that's a respondent is saying this is hanging over my head. So having a case manager is a person with a specific job of being the go-to person for both parties to get information about the status of the case and to get reminded of the resources that are available for them. And I think that's a great idea. I think we'll try it. I think it can only help. The other modification is we've lengthened the window of time that we've told students it may take to get to a conclusion. And the reason why is we were finding it impossible to meet this 90-day expectation. Too many people involved, things were too slow. Part of the slowness is trying to keep up with the workload of an increased number of reports of misconduct, and we've hired more people into the office trying to keep up. And then from the side of the students, the students continue to be responsible for all their classes and tests and assignments and all the things you have going on in life, and then there's spring break and there's summer vacation. And so there are delays in iterating the investigation of what happened because of the availability of complainants or witnesses. Your students at the same time, and you're not perpetually available for this, so it slows things down too. So we set a more realistic expectation that we're going to try to adhere to of turning this around within 120 days. And we'll try to make it shorter. Yeah.
All right, so switching gears a little bit once again. Last semester, the university had discussed the formation of a commission to establish a timeline and distinct goals for achieving carbon neutrality. While the university is making efforts to cut back on carbon emissions, some environmental groups are curious as to how the administration is making sure the construction projects on campus are following low carbon guidelines. What regulations, if any, are in place for ensuring the construction projects help the university reach its goal of carbon neutrality, and how are you monitoring the project's adherence to the university's initiative to reduce its carbon footprint?
So we've been working at this for a while now. So this isn't new, our efforts around making sure that our construction projects contribute to our efforts to diminish our carbon footprint. We've established energy efficiency standards for our buildings, and we've established a commitment to use the LEED certification program to shoot for a certain minimum level, if not exceed a certain level of LEED certification, all of which are designed to diminish the energy needs of a building. So that's been going on for 6 or 7 years and will continue. And hopefully the work of the commission will tell us how to go beyond that. This work around energy efficiency has actually been successful in that our energy consumption per square foot since we began this project has gone, 15 or 16% or something decrease per square foot since we started this back in 2006. The reason it's timely to stand up a commission is this is a profound problem. I'm confident we can get to our 25% decrease in greenhouse gas emission goal even early, but that's not enough. And we literally do have to figure out how to approach 100%, how to approach a sustainable level of carbon cycling in the environment. And it's not just us, the whole society has to do it. But as an academic institution, we're in a great spot to solve the problem for us in a way that others can take what we've learned and come up with and tested and use it for themselves. To give you a sense, how challenging even our existing commitment is, which is an inadequate target, it's based on a baseline of what we were producing back in 2006. So the campus in the 22 or 23 years now since 2006, or 16 years, 2006, so the 12 years since 2006, we've grown our footprint by almost 20%. So the decrease we're looking for is against the total amount being produced in 2006, even though the number of people here and the size of our buildings have increased since 2006. You see, so the baseline was at a 2006 level. We've got to drop that, even though we keep getting bigger. So we've worked hard, and we have a pretty good pathway to get to 25%. But as I said, the challenge of the commission is to get us the rest of the way, and to tell us how quickly we should aspire to do this, how accountability should work, how we make sure that we hold ourselves to account, how we do it in a way that doesn't inappropriately disrupt the full mission of the university. And we do it in a way that collaborates with Ann Arbor. So we're quite close, actually, to announcing the membership of the commission and the pathway it's going to use to move forward. So we're making good progress. In the weeks ahead, you'll hear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if you could go into a little bit more detail,
Sure.
I guess, about like the specific construction projects that are currently on campus. How are you monitoring those to make sure that they are?
Sure. So take, for example, we're building a robotics building on the North Campus.
Mm-hmm.
And the design of that building, done by the architects and the engineers, are scrutinized for the projected energy efficiency of the building once it's complete, the theoretical energy efficiency measurements. That goes into approving what kind of materials are used, how thick the walls are, what kind of insulation is there, what the heating and cooling systems are, how many energy conservation mechanisms are built into the building. Are there motion sensitive lights put around? Are there cycles of heating and cooling that are daylight sensitive, time of the year sensitive? Even the glazing on windows is subject to the scrutiny for energy efficiency. And that's stuff we've been doing for a while and we continue to do. And we try to have a minimum threshold, and we sort of test ourselves to see how far above that minimum threshold we can go.
And finally, as we begin a new semester at the university, what are some initiatives you are most excited about implementing on campus? How will these initiatives relate to the ones you have expressed in past semesters?
So a lot of the things we're doing are things of importance that we have to focus on consistently. So our efforts around diversity and inclusion, for example, in order for all students to have a similar opportunity here on campus, we have to improve the diversity of the campus and then the way people feel valued and included. And that's work that never diminishes in importance. Same thing around sexual misconduct and the climate around gender, with the terrible events associated with MSU, for example, and Dr. Nasser and his assaults of hundreds of women. Yeah, it's really elevated scrutiny of how we educate and protect and adjudicate all the issues we've been talking about. And that's front burner. We spend very large amounts of time trying to get this right. The new policy we talked about faculty, undergraduate, or faculty-student relationships. So those are all things of ongoing, but not diminished, front burner importance. I'm also leading a search for a new chancellor for the Flint campus, and that's very important to get good leadership for Flint. Here on this campus, after working at it for a while, we've made the first awards in our biosciences initiative. We've started up a number of new or enhanced research areas around RNA biology, climate change biology, advanced microscopy, and these are things I'm going to help push on during the semester. We're expanding our poverty initiative, particularly in the city of Detroit. We launched a new collaboration with Harvard about economic mobility in the city of Detroit. We've got foundations that are lining up to help us in our economic development work in Detroit. Working to help promote efforts from the School of Education on developing a new kind of public school in the city of Detroit, where the school is used to train new teachers in a way that's analogous to the way our hospital trains new doctors. So that's an exciting project. Our Greenhouse Gas Commission, I'm going to be very involved in as it launches in the coming couple of weeks. We're also working to plan, and I'm working to raise money for a completely new CCRB right in the heart of campus, and that's going to be really exciting too. So lots of good stuff going on. I'm going to lots of basketball games, having a great time too. 17-0 is we've never done that before, so that's really exciting and uplifting for the student community.
Good.
All right.
Great, super. Well, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.